A late-night storm howls, rattling the windows of a dilapidated community center. Inside, Henry, a single father and veteran carpenter, toils over a broken antique carousel horse for his daughter, Louisa. The flickering streetlights outside cast eerie shadows when a sleek black SUV crashes into a hidden ditch nearby. A woman in a torn gown, Alexandra, emerges, her face etched with terror, clutching a blood-stained document. She collapses at Henry's feet, gasping about a frame-up and a stolen legacy, pulling him into a high-stakes conspiracy that threatens his quiet life and her billion-dollar empire. Henry's hands, calloused and strong, moved with a practiced ease, coaxing life back into the splintered wood of an antique carousel horse. The air in his small workshop, nestled within the old community center, was thick with the scent of sawdust and possibility. Outside, the last rays of an autumn afternoon painted the sky in hues of orange and fading violet. He was a carpenter, a craftsman, a man who believed that everything, given enough patience and care, could be made whole again at 38. Henry carried the quiet strength of someone who had seen loss but refused to be broken by it. His daughter, Louisa, a bright-eyed 10-year-old with a sketchbook never far from her hand, bounced into the workshop, a brown paper bag in her grasp. Lunch. "Dad," she declared, her voice a melody in the otherwise silent space. She set a thermos and a sandwich on his workbench. "Miss Eleanor says the field trip to the old amusement park is next month. Remember the broken horse? The one with the chipped paint?" Henry nodded, his gaze softening. Louisa loved that horse. He had promised to find a way to make it ride again. It was a small promise, perhaps, in the grand scheme of things. But to Henry, every promise to Louisa was a sacred trust. He was a widower. His wife, Amanda, had passed quietly years ago, leaving him with a profound desire for stability and quiet joy for their daughter. As Henry ate, the small radio on the shelf murmured in the background. A news anchor's voice cut through a jazz tune, mentioning EtherCorp, the tech giant dominating the city skyline. A fleeting image of Alexandra, EtherCorp's CEO, flashed on the screen, a woman in a sharp suit, her face a mask of stern composure. The report detailed an upcoming IPO, a pivotal moment for the company. Henry barely registered it. His world was one of wood and glue, of tangible problems and honest solutions. Meanwhile, Alexandra's world, a gleaming fortress of glass and steel, hummed with a different kind of tension in her sterile, high-tech office, 20 stories above the bustling city. She meticulously reviewed legal documents, her brow furrowed. Every clause, every number, held the weight of $3 billion. Her company, EtherCorp, was her life's work. Forged from code and sheer will, the IPO, just weeks away, was the culmination of years of relentless effort. Clinton, her chief operating officer, entered her office with a calm that felt almost predatory. At 42, he possessed an unsettling composure, a polished veneer that rarely cracked. "Alexandra," he began, his voice smooth. "There's a slight issue. The patent for the quantum loop encryption. It appears to have been misplaced, and a rather significant discrepancy has surfaced in the Q3 financial report." Alexandra's tightly held composure began to fray. Misplaced discrepancy. These were not mere oversights. They were deliberate attacks. She felt the cold prickle of suspicion, a chilling certainty that sabotage was unfolding from within. Night fell, bringing with it a fierce thunderstorm. The rain lashed against the windows of Henry's workshop. He was still there, the old storage room echoing with the rhythmic scrape of sandpaper against wood. He had managed to acquire the broken carousel horse, a majestic, if dilapidated, Steed with peeling paint and missing ears, he was determined to fulfill Louisa's small wish. The flickering streetlights outside cast eerie, dancing shadows through the window panes. Suddenly, a violent screech of tires sliced through the roar of the storm, followed by a sickening crash. Headlights, a blinding, broken gleam, lay buried in a hidden ditch just outside the community center. Beyond the overgrown woods and forgotten stretch of road, Henry dropped his tools, his heart hammering against his ribs. He rushed out into the deluge, the cold rain instantly soaking his clothes. He reached the crashed vehicle, a sleek black SUV, its front end crumpled like paper. As he peered through the shattered windshield, a figure stirred within. A woman. She pulled herself from the wreckage with a slow, agonizing effort. Her elegant gown torn and muddied, her face, even in the dim light, was etched with raw terror, streaked with dirt and blood. In her trembling hand, she clutched a single page, a document stained red. She stumbled toward Henry, her strength giving way, and collapsed at his feet, gasping words that clawed at the night. Them. Clinton. A frame-up. Stolen. Her voice was a ragged whisper, pleading with him not to leave her, convinced that her life was hanging by a thread. Henry scooped her up, his strong arms surprisingly gentle, and carried her inside the warmth of the old storage room. The space, usually filled with the comforting smell of wood and varnish, now held the scent of fear and damp earth. He laid her carefully on a makeshift cot, his hands moving with the efficiency of a man accustomed to tending to wounds, both literal and metaphorical. He found a first aid kit and began cleaning the cuts on her face and arms, his questions quiet, his touch steady. Alexandra, initially disoriented, struggled to piece together the fragments of her memory. She recalled a sudden dizziness at her office, a strange metallic taste, then darkness. The next thing she knew, she was in the back of her own car, driven by someone she couldn't quite see. Then the abrupt, jarring impact. She believed she had been drugged, driven to this remote location, and intentionally pushed off the road. The document clutched in her hand was a fabricated confession of corporate fraud, accusing her of insider trading and embezzlement. Clinton needed her signature, or her death, to complete his hostile takeover of EtherCorp. She realized, with a chilling clarity, that the crash was not an accident, but a calculated attempt to silence her permanently. Louisa, who had been staying with a kind neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, heard the commotion. Worried by the unusual noise and the raging storm, she hurried to the community center. Her small face registered confusion as she saw Alexandra, a figure she recognized from the fleeting news report, distressed and injured in her father's workshop. Louisa's innocent curiosity, devoid of adult cynicism, quickly turned to genuine empathy. She produced a crumpled business card, retrieved from Alexandra's torn gown, and pointed to the distinct EtherCorp logo. "Dad," she whispered, her eyes wide. "That's the lady from the TV, the one on Mom's drawing." Louisa then began to describe architectural features of EtherCorp's building she had sketched in her notebook, details she remembered from a previous drive past the towering corporate structure. Her observations, simple and unburdened, would later prove invaluable. Alexandra looked at Louisa, a flicker of something new in her eyes. The child's presence was an unexpected balm, as Henry explained his plan to help. Alexandra's fear slowly gave way to a dawning comprehension of the sheer ruthlessness she was up against. The forged document lay on Henry's workbench, a stark testament to the depths of Clinton's treachery. It was designed to not only discredit her, but to legally transfer control of her life's work. Her life and legacy hung precariously in the balance. Henry, a man of tangible truths. Initially struggled to grasp the labyrinthine complexities of Alexandra's corporate drama. His world revolved around the honest work of his hands, not the cutthroat machinations of billion-dollar companies. Yet, as he looked into Alexandra's eyes, he saw a fear that transcended wealth and status, a raw vulnerability that mirrored his own grief when Amanda passed. A death he sometimes suspected had been overlooked in a bureaucracy that cared more for paperwork than lives. He knew, deep in his bones, that no one deserved to be thrown away, discarded like trash. He would help, not for personal gain, but because his moral compass pointed him true. He picked up his favorite carving tool, its sharp edge glinting in the dim light, a symbol of his methodical approach to fixing what was broken. Henry, a master of the overlooked passages of the city, utilized his extensive knowledge of its underbelly to ensure their escape. He knew of a derelict, isolated building, an abandoned warehouse he had once worked in, now slowly being converted into a living space. A personal project filled with his carpentry creations and Louisa's vibrant artwork. It was a stark contrast to Alexandra's former life of penthouses and luxury hotels, yet it offered genuine, untraceable safety. Clinton's security team, Alexandra explained, would already be searching every known address, every official channel. This hidden sanctuary, off the grid and known only to a few, was their only hope, cut off from her usual corporate network. Alexandra relied on her memory and Henry's resourcefulness. He produced a burner phone, its anonymity a stark counterpoint to the sophisticated communication systems she was accustomed to. With careful instructions, Alexandra contacted Astrid, a shrewd M&A lawyer who, at 40, possessed eyes as sharp as her legal instincts. Astrid, fiercely loyal to Alexandra, confirmed Clinton's aggressive moves. He had indeed initiated steps to freeze Alexandra's assets and was consolidating control of EtherCorp. More critically, Astrid revealed that internal security logs on the IPO servers indicated a recent, unauthorized breach. The clock was ticking, and Clinton was accelerating his plans. Henry, with his carpenter's keen eye for detail and an intuitive understanding of physical systems, studied the forged document Alexandra still clutched. He noticed subtle inconsistencies, a faint watermark that shouldn't have been present, a peculiar texture to the paper, a barely perceptible impression mark that suggested an old-fashioned printing press. These were details that only someone like Henry, a man who worked intimately with materials and their hidden histories, would recognize. He connected these anomalies to an obscure, old printing shop he knew, tucked away in a forgotten industrial district, a place that still utilized the kind of specialized, vintage equipment capable of producing such subtle marks. His blue-collar skill, so often dismissed by the corporate world, was proving invaluable. Henry, with Alexandra disguised in a worn hat and an oversized jacket, infiltrated the old printing shop under the pretense of seeking antique wood for a restoration project. The air inside was heavy with the smell of ink and old paper. After a tense search, they discovered not only evidence that the forged documents had indeed been printed there, but also hidden ledgers detailing Clinton's systematic manipulation of EtherCorp's financials. These ledgers revealed shell corporations used to acquire the company's shares at a suppressed value, a scheme that would yield him hundreds of millions of dollars. But the most shocking discovery was a coded message, tucked beneath a stack of invoices. It was a communication from a disillusioned employee, implicating a prominent public figure, a seemingly benevolent philanthropist with a powerful political network, as Clinton's ultimate silent partner and the true, unseen mastermind behind the entire plot. The conspiracy was far wider, far more dangerous than Alexandra had ever imagined. Clinton, confident in Alexandra's disappearance and presumed demise, moved swiftly. He announced a lavish memorial gala for Alexandra, a cynical spectacle designed to publicly consolidate his power and finalize the IPO under his own terms. His public statement painted Alexandra as a troubled executive who had committed fraud and fled, leaving a wake of chaos. The gala, scheduled for the following evening, was his grand theatrical finale. Alexandra, reading the news on a dusty tablet in their makeshift safehouse, understood this was her last, desperate chance to expose him. Louisa, oblivious to the deeper machinations but inspired by her father's quiet determination, had been diligently working on the broken carousel horse. Henry, seeing her unwavering spirit, realized the horse, once a symbol of childhood dreams, could become central to their plan. It embodied innocence and restoration, smuggling physical evidence, the heavy ledgers, the printing plates, into a highly secure corporate gala would be impossible. They needed a different approach, leveraging Henry's carpentry skills and Louisa's artistic eye. They devised a plan they would subtly project the damning evidence onto a grand display screen during Clinton's speech, using the carousel horse as a central, symbolic prop for a dramatic, public reveal. Henry's ingenuity, combined with Louisa's unexpected contribution, formed the backbone of their audacious strategy. The night of the gala arrived, a shimmering, deceptive facade of opulence. Henry, disguised as a caterer's delivery man, his tools replaced by trays of sparkling glasses, guided Alexandra, who was a vision of understated defiance in a simple black dress, and Louisa, dressed as a flower girl with an oversized, innocent smile, through a secondary service entrance he knew from previous maintenance work. The grand ballroom, a sea of glittering chandeliers and designer gowns, hummed with the self-congratulatory chatter of the city's elite. Clinton's security team, a formidable presence, patrolled the perimeter. Louisa, her eyes bright and observant, acted as their unexpected lookout, her small stature allowing her to move unseen through the crowd, reporting positions with hushed whispers into a concealed earpiece Henry had fashioned. The tension was a palpable, living thing, coiling around them with every step, as Clinton, radiating false confidence, took the stage to deliver his eulogy for Alexandra and, by extension, his own ascension. Henry moved into position. With a silent signal, he activated a hidden projector, ingeniously concealed within the hollow belly of the restored carousel horse. The subtle hum of the projector was swallowed by the crowd's polite murmurs as the intricate details of the hidden ledgers, the damning lines of the forged document, and even the unique imprint of the old printing press suddenly flashed onto the grand display screen behind Clinton. The triumphant smile froze on Clinton's face. Alexandra, stepping from the shadows, her voice raw and clear, devoid of any corporate polish, publicly denounced him, her words cutting through the stunned silence like a sharp blade. Exposed and cornered, Clinton's polished facade shattered. He lunged for Alexandra, a desperate, frantic attempt to silence her permanently. His private security team, caught off guard, surged forward. But Astrid, anticipating precisely this move, had already set her own plan in motion. George, the CFO, now a reformed ally from a previous corporate intrigue, emerged from the crowd, accompanied by legal authorities and a tactical team. They moved swiftly, intercepting Clinton's men and thwarting his desperate escape. Clinton, wrestled to the ground, screamed about the greater power behind him, implicating a shadowy, powerful public figure in his frantic confession before he was finally restrained. The full extent of the conspiracy, reaching far beyond Clinton, was laid bare for all to see. In the aftermath, Clinton was arrested, facing a litany of charges. The larger conspiracy, touching powerful figures previously thought untouchable, began to unravel, sending shockwaves through the city's elite. EtherCorp's IPO, temporarily halted, was eventually relaunched under new, ethical leadership, with Alexandra embracing a radical new era of corporate transparency. Henry, his quiet integrity now recognized, was appointed head of facility safety, his unique skills invaluable in preventing future vulnerabilities. Louisa's beautifully restored carousel horse, a poignant symbol of innocence and hope, was installed in the EtherCorp lobby, a permanent testament to how truth, integrity, and the most unexpected alliances could mend even the most broken things. Months later, Henry and Alexandra shared a quiet moment in the newly renovated EtherCorp lobby, their gazes resting on the gleaming carousel horse. Their worlds, once so vastly different, had converged, forging a bond of deep respect. Alexandra, humbled by her ordeal, had learned that true power lay not in control, but in empathy and transparency. Henry still worked with his hands, but now on a grander scale, ensuring the safety and well-being of thousands, all while maintaining the flexible hours that allowed him to be there for Louisa. Louisa, her eyes sparkling with joy, rode her restored carousel horse, its painted mane flowing, a living symbol of her father's unwavering integrity and a reminder that even the biggest, most daunting problems could be solved with courage and honesty. The chime of the restored carousel horse, a gentle, melodic sound, filled the EtherCorp lobby. It was a new sound for a new era, one where power served people, not just profit. Henry, still uncomfortable in a suit, watched Louisa as she finished her homework in the corner of his new, spacious office, a designated family zone he had insisted upon. The challenges were not entirely gone. The world was still complex, but the company, indeed the city, felt different. It was a world that had been broken, but now, thanks to the quiet courage of a carpenter and the unexpected resilience of a child, it was being rebuilt, one honest beam at a time. The carousel horse spun gently, catching the light, forever turning toward the promise of a brighter, more transparent tomorrow.